YouTube, what's going on? This is Chaz CU here, and with the new Fate of the Furious coming out this Friday, I figured it was a good time to explain to some of you who haven't seen all the movies in the franchise. So this is going to be an overview of all the Fast and Furious movies. Check it out. To start off, we have The Fast and the Furious. Cop Brian O'Connor, played by Paul Walker, goes undercover with a group of street racers in order to figure out who's been robbing semi-trucks full of electronics. To prove his worth, Brian races the badass Dominic Toretto, who's played by Vin Diesel, who then quickly schools Brian on what a true win is.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
During this movie, Brian very quickly begins to fall in love with Mia, who happens to be Dom's little sister. A lot of nice cars, sexy girls, high-paced street races. Every guy in America loves it, am I right? Brian finds out that Dom is in fact the guy stealing the electronics, but now he has a problem because he feels like he's actually a part of the family. So after a race when Dom wrecks his Charger, Brian decides to hand him the keys to his Supra, saying that he owed him a 10-second car. Next up, Too Fast, Too Furious. Brian is no longer a police officer because in the last movie he let Dom go when they were trying to catch him. Now, in this movie, it takes place in Miami where Brian now lives. He is now very big into the street scene down there, and then he gets recruited by the FBI along with his childhood friend Roman Pierce, who's played by Tyrese Gibson. They're recruited to go undercover in a drug ring, and in return, both of their records are going to be wiped clean. In this movie, Brian and Roman have a lot of high-speed chases, large-scale collisions, and they even drive their car onto a boat.
Boat, car, boat. You're not gonna do what I think you're gonna do. Yeah, I think so.
Not to mention they also have a couple little tricks up their sleeve as well. All in all, they end up bringing down the drug lord, and they get to go ahead and get their records cleaned. Fast and Furious. Brian is now working as a special agent for the FBI, and he gets reunited with Dominic Toretto after Letty is killed by another drug lord named Braga. Dom and Brian go undercover and join Braga's driving team that goes between the US and Mexico border through an underground tunnel system. When Braga realizes that they're coming after him, he flees to Mexico, leaving them no choice but to go down to Mexico and come get him. Once they grab Braga, they are dodging an array of bullets from the cartel. They manage to get Braga back onto US soil, but just before Brian is about to be killed by a cartel member, Dominic comes out of nowhere and pins the cartel member against another car, killing him almost instantly. This is some sweet revenge because that cartel member is the same one that actually carried out the order to kill Letty. As the cops are coming, Dom says that he's tired of running and he doesn't move. He allows himself to be captured and he gets 25 to life. Brian resigns from the FBI, and the last scene shows the prison transport bus bringing Dominic to prison, and behind it you see the original crew from the first movie all coming afterward. Fast 5. This is the 5th installment of the Fast and Furious franchise, and it picks up immediately where the previous movie had left off. The team takes down the prison bus and helps Dom free, allowing Brian, Dom, and Mia to go escape to Rio de Janeiro. When they get there, they hear of a small job that's a man named Reyes is hiring people to go steal some cars off of a train. During the job, Dom notices that the guys who had hired them are really only interested in one particular car, a Ford GT40. They decide to take the GT40 and they discover that the computer chip inside the car has the location of $100 million of Reyes' money.
So what we're talking about is $100 million.
You say what? 100. See, sometimes I be overthinking, man. And
now Reyes is a corrupt man in Rio de Janeiro. He owns the cops, he owns everything. They immediately come up with a plan to steal it, but they need a team. They bring a lot of the old characters from the previous movies like Roman, Tej, Giselle, Han, and then the brothers Leo and Santos. Special Agent Luke Hobbs, played by Dwayne Johnson, and his team have just arrived in Rio de Janeiro in order to hunt down Dominic Toretto and bring him back to the United States so he will go to jail. Hobbs captures the team, but as he's in the middle of taking them in, they get ambushed by Reyes' men, who ends up taking out all of Hobbs' men that he had came with. Now, in order for revenge, he agrees to help the team with their plan, but he wants to get his revenge on Reyes. They have to bust into a police station.
Yeah. Can I get everyone's attention right here for a second?
Yes, I said police station.
We're talking about breaking into a police station. Is anyone listening to those words? Anybody? Po-po, 5-0, one time, pigs, people we don't like.
And of course, in a very Fast and Furious style, they are flying through the streets of Rio de Janeiro with 2 cars hooked up to a massive safe with dozens of cops running behind them.
Good afternoon, officer. License and registration, please. Yes, this is big boy stuff.
After the chase and all the cars have been immobilized, Reyes is crawling on the ground and Hobbs comes up to him and shoots him instantly in revenge for the death of his team. Once this is all said and done though, Hobbs says that he's not gonna let Brian and Dom go, but he's gonna give them a 24-hour head start. The other condition is that the safe has to stay with him. Sucks, right? They do all this work and now they don't get any of the money, but that's not true. During the chase, they had switched out the safe, so they ended up still getting the $1 million. And the movie ends with showing how each character is enjoying their share of the money. Fast and Furious 6. Hobbs ends up finding the team and convinces them to help him catch an international criminal named Owen Shaw. The reason that he thinks that the crew will go for it is because one of the members of Owen Shaw's crew is Letty, the one who is presumed to have been dead. Shaw is building a deadly device that as soon as it's complete, he's gonna try to sell to the highest bidder. They agree to do it so that they can get back Letty and then they can get their old lives back as well. Letty unfortunately has suffered from amnesia, so she doesn't recognize any of the team. This movie has some of the craziest street driving and car crashes in the franchise of Fast and Furious.
Guys, we gotta come up with another plan. They got a tank.
In a last attempt, the team takes down Shaw's plane with him in it and the completed device, but they lost someone along the way. Giselle ended up having to sacrifice herself so that she could save Han and finish the mission. The movie ends with them reunited in their Los Angeles home from the first movie, and they're all sitting there having a family cookout. Letty's even there as well. She still doesn't have her memory back, but she's still trying. Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. This movie was actually released a few years prior, but this is where it fits into the timeline of the franchise. In this movie, the main character, Sean, has to move to Tokyo with his father because he got into a really bad street racing incident and has to flee in order so he can avoid juvie or prison. Of course, it doesn't really help because Sean ends up getting exposed to the street racing scene in Tokyo, where he meets a girl that he begins to fall for, but it ends up being the girlfriend of Takashi, the local DK.
You know what DK stands for? Donkey Kong. Drift King. Drift.
Han, the only Fast and Furious cast member that you'll really recognize in this movie, ends up letting Sean use his car in a street race against Takashi. Needless to say, Sean loses and ends up totaling Han's car, because he doesn't even know how to drift. However, Han, during the movie, teaches Sean how to drift because he's someone who's willing to stand up to Takashi. The saddest moment in this movie is when Sean and Han are trying to get away from Takashi, and Han's car gets T-boned by what seems to be a passing by vehicle, killing all Fast fans' favorite Asian. In the after credits of Fast and Furious 6, you learn that this actually is no accident because they replayed this scene, but instead you see that Deckard Shaw, the brother of Owen Shaw, is actually driving the vehicle. He proceeds to throw Dom's cross into the blaze and call Dominic. This is how we know this is where it is in the timeline that this movie takes place. This movie definitely has the most street races shown in all the Fast and Furious franchise, going through all the streets of Tokyo. Of course, the movie has to end with an intense race between Takashi and the main character, Sean. Of course, Sean ends up winning the race, getting the girl, but he still loses Han. Dom makes a small cameo at the very end of the movie where he meets with Sean and starts a race with him, and then that's how the movie ends. Last but not least, Furious 7. Unfortunately, during the production of this movie, Paul Walker had in real life died from a car accident, which made the movie be delayed and have a lot of rewrites, so it changed how the movie ended up. The last parts of this movie that have Paul Walker in them are actually a usage of CGI along with using his brother as a stand-in for the remainder of the film. When this movie starts off, it shows Dom receiving the phone call from Deckard Shaw right after he had killed Han and proceeds to blow up the Toretto house with a bomb. During Han's funeral, Dominic notices that there's a car watching them, proceeds to go after it, and it ends up being Deckard Shaw. Just before they really get into their fight, they end up getting interrupted by Black Ops, and it makes Shaw end up leaving very quickly. Here is where Dominic meets this man who calls himself Mr. Nobody, clearly a high-level Black Ops agent. He offers to help Dom catch Deckard Shaw. In return, Dom and the rest of the team help him grab this program called the God's Eye, which essentially allows you to use all the satellites and cameras in the world to find someone almost instantaneously. It's some next level shit. So the team has to go save the hacker from a group of mercenaries in the most Fast and Furious style way.
You ready?
You know we're crazy, right?
By dropping their cars out of a plane.
2, 1. Let's do this.
Of course, not everyone's keen on this plan.
Hey man, listen, I'm sorry to let y'all down, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and stay up here.
No, brother.
I'm sorry to let you down. What? What do you mean you said?
Dad! What are you doing? I hate you, Dad!
This movie unfortunately has a lot less street racing than it did in all the other movies. However, it has a lot more gunfire, a lot more explosions, and some insane car stunts.
Dom, cars don't fly! Cars don't fly! Oh, shit!
In an epic final showdown with explosions, drones, helicopters, exploding buildings, they end up catching Deckard and getting the God's Eye for the government. Instead of ending the movie there, they decided to make a tribute for Paul, which ended up being one of the most emotional scenes for any Fast and Furious fan or any fan out there in general. The scene shows the entire cast members watching Paul have fun with his kid when they're sitting on the beach, but Dom, too upset, says he can't say goodbye and gets in his car and drives away. Paul proceeds to catch up to him in his car. Now he's wearing all white along with his car. They proceed to have one final race where Paul veers off onto another road and just keeps going. If you haven't seen that scene, please go look it up and watch it for yourself. Make sure you have a box of tissues with you. Now you're caught up with all the Fast and Furious movies. Make sure you guys go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel so I know you guys enjoyed this video. And if you want, go ahead and leave a comment, some things you want to see in the future. Thank you so much. Again, this is Chaz, see you, and I'll check you guys later.